Hey, are you in a codependent relationship where your relationship or your marriage is affecting your ability to be successful, to move forward, to have a successful life or business? Well, that's what I want to talk about in this video. I feel very called to talk about this stuff. And there's an amazing book I'm going to share with you and tell you a story. Back when I first, before I got married to my wife and we were engaged, the first few years of our relationship, there were times where it was very, 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 very hard. I remember we got in a really bad fight literally a couple months before we got married, and I left our apartment and I bounced, and I didn't come home for a few days, and I went and I stayed a few nights at my sister's house. And my wife was calling over and over, and it was like pure drama, and I felt like I was in a nightmare, and I was trying to like work at the same time, and it was some of the hardest times of my life. And I'm glad that I stuck it out and that we stuck it out, and now we have a very happy, I'd say pretty functional, healthy marriage. And I remember my sister, my older sister, I don't talk about her much in the videos. I have two sisters, but my older sister is like very smart. And she gave me this book, Codependent No More, and how to stop controlling others and start caring for yourself. It goes both ways, right? And I found out that, as you might find out, codependent issues, narcissism, things like that, you can have deep fears of abandonment or fears of unlove where it literally feels like you're dying. You'll go through any amount of hell to avoid being alone in a pit of darkness. And maybe the other person is so afraid of being abandoned that they'll put you through hell and they'll try to control you because they're terrified of losing you. So they'll literally try to control you. So I started reading this book. I read a lot of this book. And it unlocks some things inside you, and it makes you realize things. This is one of many books, but this is a good book. And it goes, there's drugs and alcoholic dependencies. Have a love affair with yourself. Learn how to love yourself. Ultimately, I got this outlined. Too much dependency on a person can kill love. Relationships based on emotional insecurity and need rather than on love can become self-destructive. They don't work. Too much need drives people away and smothers love. It scares people away. It attracts the wrong kind of people. So on and so forth. Despair, forfeit, angry, resent, controlling, things like that. So, stuff like that. Gets pretty deep. And the reason I'm talking about this is I believe that this type of stuff, which is very real, and it happens behind closed doors all over the place. People hear people talking about it on social media, right? Very much. There's another amazing book by Brene Brown called The Power of Vulnerability. Amazing book. But is that this is things that are stopping you from becoming successful, stopping people from building businesses, chasing dreams, and moving on with their lives and doing things. And you have to, it takes, I can say it takes years, but it's easier to grow a healthy intimacy than it is to try to fix a broken one. And you can't tell people about this stuff because they'll be like, well, you really need to see a therapist, or you guys need to get some counseling or something like that. And that may be true, right? And I'm not an expert. I'm not a doctor. But I will say one thing. If this stuff isn't figured out, it can be the detriment to your success, right? where you're reaching out in the middle of the night, calling people you trust, asking them for advice, and none of their advice is right, and so on and so forth. Very dramatic. And I think when you solve a lot of the drama and you patch a lot of the broken wounds within yourself and you forgive people and you're forgiven and you love people unconditionally. I know what happened with my wife and I when it started to get better. She grew up and matured, and I grew up and matured, but I started to love her unconditionally no matter what. And when she actually started to feel me feeling her, she could feel that I wasn't going anywhere no matter what. I started to get strong, and I wouldn't leave. When she would say things like, wow, looking back now, I mean, my wife, she would say things to me that were very hurtful. And then after she would say those things, she would say things like, get the fuck out of here. Just get the fuck out of here. And as I was trying to talk, she would just keep saying that. And then if I would try to leave, then she wouldn't let me leave after saying that. So I was like, as being a man, being afraid that I would end up in handcuffs or something while I'm trying to build a business and trying to pay off debts at the same time. It could be a pretty scary situation when everything's on the line. And then she would start screaming like, get the fuck out of here. And then I would leave, and then she'd like, it was really messed up, bro. And it takes two. I had to admit that there was part of my psychology, energy patterns inside of me that were also provoking that stuff inside of her. And I didn't want to admit it. And then part of my ego was so flattered because I never had anybody that obsessively crazy over me before. But that's just ego. It was very unhealthy patterns. So I think that your first most powerful step is to put a stake in the ground and say the buck stops here. You're either all out and you're out, or you're 100% in. When you always have a back foot, when your feet are always out the door, your spouse can feel it very strongly if you're not fully committed, and it'll drive them insane. So you got to start taking responsibility for what you're creating. Look at my dog. She doesn't feel good. Are you okay, baby? You okay? All right, so check out that book, my friend. Another amazing book you can listen on audible.com is Letting Go by Dr. David R. Hawkins, Power versus Force by Dr. David R. Hawkins, and just start with those. All right, peace. Oh yeah, you can also do fasting, praying, meditating, body detoxes, cleanses, getting away from negative people, the Ho'oponopono prayer, I love you, thank you, forgive me, I'm sorry, repeating that over and over, going to the gravesite of a past loved one or loved ones and crying it out, going cold turkey, quitting smoking, going to church, anything, by moving the process forward and elevating your vibrational frequency to the point where it helps the other person elevate their frequency or makes them just drop off and away from you, completely separate, or will help you elevate your frequency so you can move closer in union with the person that you love. And that's it. Let me know if you like this video.